Melbourne's posted a new record for one-day auctions, but the question many people are asking is how long can it last? Sydney's clearance rates also soaring, but behind the healthy sales figures, it's a very different story to the booms of the 80s and noughties. The number of first-time buyers has halved, there's short supply, at least in Sydney, and credit growth is flat. Here's Emily Stewart.
Going! Sold! Sold! All silent! Sold!
Hot property. The major housing markets of Sydney and Melbourne are producing record high clearance rates.
What's making this a little bit abnormal, though, is that seasonally, for this time of year, clearance rates tend to drop. That's because you actually get a seasonal increase in supply of auctions.
But that's not happening this year in Sydney. Just 23,000 homes are up for sale, the lowest number since 2009. Stock levels in September alone are down 17% on last year, and on some metrics prices are up as much as 10%, making it a seller's market.
We are seeing very, very strong buy demand out there in the marketplace right now, perhaps even stronger than what we've had in the last 10 to 12 years.
The other big market, Melbourne, is mixed, with a lot more stock on the market, 46,000 properties up for sale. Prices in some areas are up around 5%. This property in suburban Melbourne is a renovator's dream.
I do find a few times that I've been left in the cold, so that's all right. We get there eventually.
It's a common feeling amongst first home buyers. At one time they made up a third of all sales, but now they account for just 14% of the market, the lowest level in more than a decade.
Done.
In most cities, house prices are rising more than incomes. So for many first home buyers, unless they have family assistance or save for a very long time, it's increasingly becoming more difficult for them to enter the market. Instead, it's investors driving the market, now making up around a quarter of sales in the past 3 months and growing. The RBA has warned about self-managed super funds piling into property, but in fact, most of the current heat is coming from those who are cashed up, like those who've downsized and are using their capital to invest. And while previous booms in the 80s and 2000s have been driven by credit growth, not this time.
We are not seeing the 16 to 18% growth in loans that we saw in the early 2000s. So banks are not actually lending anything like the growth that they were. So they're seeing at 4 to 5% growth per annum.
This investor-led boom could have serious consequences.
It may make the market more speculative. Investors will likely sell off rather quickly if they think the market's about to head south in some way or form, or there's an increase in interest rates. They'll move more quickly than, say, owner-occupiers who are definitely there for the long haul.
But the housing market is by no means booming right across the country. Prices have been strong in Western Australia for the past 2 years. That's now tailing off.
Tasmania and South Australia, it's a little more stagnant. The number of first-time buyers are relatively low, despite the fact that the income-to-property ratios are better there. And Queensland has been very patchy.
Back in suburban Melbourne, not a first-home buyer in sight.
Going! Sold!
Former Fujitsu director Martin North says it's time for the government to step in.
What we do not want is a first owner grant strategy where effectively you just lift bottom end prices for everybody. That's not going to work. So there needs to be a focus on building more properties, new properties, and perhaps on brown land as well as city edge land.
Or for many, owning their own home will continue to be a pipe dream.